Hey guys, welcome to Reddit Brew. Today, I will be reading from the r/EntitledPeople subreddit, so let's jump into it. Narcissist parents wanted me to trade houses with them because I got a slightly better one. Then they stole from me when I refused to give them money. I'm going to start this off by saying that if you have a house and don't have cameras, get cameras. I have some now, but I should have gotten them sooner. Anyway, onto the story. I live in a pretty typical manufactured home in Arizona. My parents also live in one just a few streets over. Despite how close we are, I am very low contact because they are just bad people and are horrible with their money. They treated me okay as a kid, but things changed as soon as I was in my late teens. I was expected to do more and pay my way as soon as I finished high school, which was fair. I was an adult by then after all, but my parents wanted a lot more in rent than what I'd have to pay if I just got my own apartment. I'd have had next to nothing left of my monthly paycheck if I'd given them what they wanted. So I refused to give them more than a fair amount, plus a share in utilities, and I started buying my own food as well. My father openly said that this was not good enough, and my parents actually filed official paperwork to evict me when I refused to cater to their ridiculous demands. I left home and got an apartment with my best friend. 5 years later, I bought my own house. It's just a manufactured home on a small property, but it was so damn cheap that I couldn't turn it down. My parents, though, somehow didn't like my independence from them, and the unbelievable incident that caused the very low contact was when they demanded I trade houses with them. Yep, you read that correctly. They actually wanted to trade and felt entitled to my house. Their manufactured home is smaller and older than mine and has one less bedroom. Their yard is smaller too. So when they first saw my place, they looked pissed. After a couple more visits, my father actually said that it wasn't fair that I was doing better than them. It's just an old manufactured home in one of the hottest states in the US. Seriously? But I guess having something even slightly better than what my parents have irked them. And like I said, they actually demanded that we trade houses because of it. My friend who lives with me literally fell onto the couch laughing, and I couldn't help but join in. My father said, "It's not funny. Give us what we want. Get the fuck out." When I recovered my composure, I replied that he and my mother were not entitled to my house or anything I own for that matter. So they are the ones who need to get the fuck out. We barely spoke after this incident. Then the pandemic hit. My father got laid off and he struggled to find another job. He ended up working in the local Mardo Walls for half a year before getting a better paying job. During that time, he and my mother kept calling me and asking for money, stating that I should give them some because they raised me and I owed them. I retorted that if they didn't want the cost of raising a kid, they shouldn't have had one. The loan requests stopped after this. A few weeks ago though, my mother called me begging for money because their dinosaur of a window AC unit finally crapped out. My mother complained about how I have 2 in my house, and the least I could do is give them 1. I then said that maybe if she and my father weren't always pissing away their money on knickknacks, beer, and MJ all the time, they'd have the money to buy another AC. Then I said I wasn't giving them one of mine or any money. End of story. Only that wasn't the end of the story. A few days later, I came home from work to find that my house had been broken into. My front door locks were drilled out, and both of my window AC units were gone. Nothing else was stolen, but they went out of their way to make a huge mess. I guess to prove a point, or maybe to make it look like a typical robbery or something, but I still knew it had to have been my parents though, and called the police. I told the police that I heavily suspected my parents of the theft because they had requested my AC a few days prior, and now those are the only things that are gone. Coincidence? Nah. I went with the police to my parents' house, and sure enough, they had both of my AC units going in their windows. When confronted, they obviously denied the theft, then claimed they already owned the AC units, but statements from their neighbors said otherwise. Unfortunately, I bought both AC units used online, which means I had no receipts for them, so I figured my only option was to look for witnesses in my own neighborhood. As luck would have it, my neighbor across the street has security cameras, and the edge of one of them caught just enough to see my parents showing up in my father's truck. My father could be seen walking with a cordless power drill in hand, and a few minutes later, they came back to the truck with my AC units. I gave this evidence to the police, and they now had cause to arrest my parents. I went with the police to my parents' house, and at first, both of them acted like they'd done nothing wrong. But then I piped up that they'd stolen from me, lied to police, trespassed, vandalized my house, broke my front door locks, and there was video evidence of what they'd done. If I pressed charges, they were both going to jail. So, if they just confess, return my stolen property, as well as fix everything they broke, I may not choose to do so. My parents looked defeated, then asked for a moment to talk with each other in their bedroom. I heard a lot of shouting from both of them, and I could hear my mother yelling that my father was an idiot. After about 5 minutes of that, they came back out looking even more defeated and said that they'll return the AC units and stop bothering me for money if I didn't press charges. I said I wanted written apologies from both of them on top of it. They begrudgingly agreed. My father was forced to put the AC units back in my windows and then left my mother to clean up the huge mess they made while he went out and bought replacement locks for my front door. He was gone about an hour and came back with a new stainless steel lock set to replace the knob and deadbolt. After everything was done, I gave my parents each a piece of paper and a pencil, then told them to write out apologies to me for what they'd done. My father looked especially pissed and said I was treating him like a child. I said he was acting like one and never stopped treating me as a child, so how does it feel? This was just me holding them accountable, and I could have sent them to jail. He then kind of snorted and started writing. My mother did write out a good apology, but my father's was pretty half-assed and passive-aggressive. I didn't care though, because I knew it killed him a little inside to have to do it. My father left without speaking to me, and my mother said she was sorry, and that she would leave me alone, then followed after him. Not long after, I shelled out to get some cameras for the exterior of my house. I haven't heard a peep from my parents, but their next door neighbor told me that they went and bought a new AC unit. Guess they had the money for one after all. Makes me wonder how high they were when they thought it was a good idea to steal from me. Maybe having lean pockets for a while will teach them. But then again, they are who they are after all, and likely always will be. Man, I wished OP pressed charges, but I'm still glad that he got some redemption. When a narcissist is forced to apologize, and even worse, a written apology, it royally hurts their ego. And you could tell that that father's ego was very bruised that day. And even though that may not be as satisfying as some charges, it's still pretty satisfying nonetheless. I also wouldn't put it past the dad to sneak a key from that lock set, so I highly suggest that OP change the locks again or get them rekeyed. The father seems like a vengeful idiot, and I do not trust him. Better safe than sorry, am I right? But anyways, that is all from me today. I hope you enjoyed this Entitled People story. If you did, please leave a like and subscribe. I truly appreciate when you do, and I will see you in the next Reddit story. Bye!